Second roundtable that is part of today's program. It is called Out of Sorts, the State of Collection and Sorting. My name is Brian Taylor, and I'm from the Recycling Today Media Group. I'm speaking to you from Hong Kong, but our media group is based in the United States, in the state of Ohio. I'll serve as this discussion's moderator. It's my pleasure to first introduce our four roundtable participants. I will start with Masoud Abaudiyan of United Arab Emirates-based Union Paper Mills. Yes, and please do wave as I introduce you. Masoud heads the Raw Material Department, RWMD, at Union Paper Mills, and that department has more than 1,000 employees. The RWMD currently collects and more than 50% of the available OCC generated in the United Arab Emirates. He supplies that material to Union Paper Mills for recycling. The company has two mills, it sounds like, one in Dubai, one in Abu Dhabi. Masoud has been working in the pulp and paper industry for the past 12 years and is currently a PhD student at the British University in Dubai. Welcome, Masoud.
Thank you.
Joining us from India is Jogarao Bhamidipati, Director of Source Fiber Global Inc. In 2007, Jogarao helped initiate WOW, which stands for Well-Being Out of Waste. It's the corporate social responsibility program of the conglomerate ITC, a company he has been affiliated with for about 30 years. The key objective of the WOW initiative is to segregate dry recyclables at source and stream them back to respective industries as raw materials. In the process, this achieves additional goals such as providing employment to less educated people, improving the lifestyle of rag pickers, reducing daily waste going to landfills, contributing support toward the Swachh Bharat or Clean India program, providing low-cost materials to the paper, plastic, and metal industries, and helping improve social health and hygiene. Welcome, Jogarao.
Sure.
Also on our panel is Simon Ellin of the Recycling Association in the United Kingdom. Simon has been involved in the recycling industry for 30 years. He's held a variety of roles in the industry, including having been with Smurfit Kappa and with firms that are now part of Veolia and Palm Recycling. Simon joined the Recycling Association in 2009 and is now chief executive of that association and its trading company, Independent Waste Paper Producers Limited, the IWPP. Simon focuses on supporting members through difficult trading conditions, which there have been plenty of those, while retaining product compliance and quality. Welcome, Simon. And joining us from Europe is Dina Epifanova, who is Sustainability Transformation and Climate Programs Manager at Tetra Pak for its Europe and Central Asia cluster. In this role, she focuses on sustainable value chains, innovations in the packaging portfolio, and climate efficient solutions. Dina gained extensive experience in waste management and advocacy in her previous role in Tetra Pak. She also has a wider professional record in the food sector, having previously worked with CHR Hansen and Mars Pet Care. Thank you for joining us, Dina.
Thank you.
Let's get started in our discussion by looking back at the turbulent past 15 months and assessing where we are now. I guess maybe I'll start with the present and asking, to what extent do there remain COVID-19 related barriers to collecting or sorting fiber in various parts of the world? And I'll start, Masoud, with you, since you're in our host country of the UAE. How are things now versus 6 months ago, 12 months ago?
The situation was really difficult during the past 1 year, but thanks God, everything is improving, everything is much better. But what is important to know is that when I was going through some articles, I have realized that the impact of COVID-19 on the recycling sector has been really under-discussed, particularly in developing nations. Overall, there are little published data on the effects of COVID-19 on the recycling chain. But what is important to know is that the growth of waste generation and the reduction of recycling have really emerged as negative impacts of COVID-19. Recently, the studies which were there in many countries such as Brazil, Greece, India, Iran, and Pakistan, they have showed that the COVID-19 can survive on the surface of the recyclable material. Such evidence has raised concern about the safety and health of workers, especially the waste pickers. Now, during the pandemic period, an increase in the recyclable waste was recorded. We have seen that mostly it was because of the e-commerce and the delivery of food services. Thus, there was an increase in the demand of the recyclables. Now, this actually, what I have seen is that the value chain have been interrupted and the reduced collection services also meant reduced quantities of recyclable material. A lot of recycling plants actually have been closed during the lockdown time, and the different waste fractions remained at the transfer station. Now, even in developing nations, I have seen that the waste management in some countries, such as Italy, the government have prohibited the infected residents from sorting their waste. In some cities in the United States, they have stopped the recycling programs. Now, what was important is that the recycling industries were not buying recyclable material for two reasons during the lockdown period. One of them was the reduction of industrial activity, and the second one was because of the fear of the contaminated material. But once all the industries started coming back gradually to their normal activities, then they understood that there is a shortage of raw material around the world. But what I have seen mainly in this part of the world, especially in GCC, that the main impact of the COVID-19 was a very significant hike in the logistic costs. Our logistic costs in our mills has really increased a lot because of lockdown, because of so many other issues. Delay of receivable account, we have really faced some difficulties in that. Our customers, they have the packaging companies, they have seen such a big impact, and the reduction of the benefit from secondary raw material. All of that they have contributed in the economic loss. So these are the first few points to start, and I will give the.
Okay, Masoud. Well, thank you for that perspective from the UAE. Jogarao, I think unfortunately India has been in the news in the first half of 2021 with some struggles with COVID-19. What are the impacts that's had on the whole supply chain and the collection and sorting of fiber in India?
I'll just give a few statistics quickly so that you get the perspective. India has got over 800 paper mills across the country, spread north, south, east, central. And out of that, more than 680 paper mills depend on recycled fiber. So those paper mills, which absolutely depend on recycled fiber as raw material, they're all suffering for two reasons. One is the domestic collections have come to almost like 20%. And the prices of ONP, old newspaper, which was around, say, 13,000 rupees or so about, say, 1.5 years back, today is doubled, 26,000 rupees. And you still don't get the quantity. Same is the case with cardboard, cotton waste, same is the case with OCC. The demand is growing because the economy is opening up. Even last year when we had the first wave of COVID, it was managed very well and the industry was not so much suffering because of the COVID problems. So demand was there on account of, like Masoud mentioned just now, e-commerce. So many cartons started getting produced. But the problem is the raw material. So the other issue, which is very critical and key to the current session as well as for the entire globe to worry about, is the frontline workers who collect waste are the people who get exposed to the COVID virus so severely. They're all worried, and the vaccination is not happening as expected across the country, and it's slowly picking up. The problem is the workers, they've seen their close relatives, friends dying with the virus. So nobody is venturing into the forefront to collect the waste from the garbage and from the municipal waste. As a result, the collections have substantially dropped. And today, I'm telling you, we have done an initiative called Well-Being Out of Waste, which is a CSR program. And we used to feed entire mill requirement of one of our units in South India. That was like, 5,000 to 6,000 tons of waste paper every month. And of course, the surplus we used to sell to the other paper mills. Today, that mill is starving on account of non-availability of raw material from the domestic collections. And as Masoud mentioned, imports have become very expensive. All prices have doubled up. Sea freights have gone up. There again, the issue of quantity availability, quality issues, virus problems. So we are going through a hell. And today with the demand on two segments, that is packaging boards and craft paper, the raw material availability is a big issue. And India is going through a big mess today.
Yeah, I think I'm certainly sorry to hear about the human aspects, the health aspects of what has happened in India the last 3 months, and now the business aspects on top of that have just have made it for a difficult situation there. I think it's a logical time to turn to Simon, because Jogarao mentioned, of course, that imports are one way a mill in India can get hold of some fiber. How is the situation in the UK, Simon? It's a pretty well vaccinated place, but things aren't quite, are things pretty well covered on the collection front now in the UK?
Yeah, and and firstly, to Jogarao and and other colleagues, I mean, our heartfelt sympathies, for what you guys are going through, and I almost sort of hesitate really to sort of give some positive feedback on how things are in the UK after what you just said. It seems a bit crass to do so, but it's I guess it's reality. To answer your question, Brian, yeah, I mean, things, touch wood at the moment, I've settled down very well in the UK. 60% of adults have now had both jabs, both the doses of the vaccine, and I think I heard yesterday 89% of all adults have now had at least one jab. So we are well ahead of it in the UK. Things are settling down, but we are getting peaks again. We've got the Delta variant, which was ironically the Indian variant. They now call it the Delta variant. That seems to be taking hold in the UK, and it's such a fluid situation. I don't think that anybody's out of the woods yet, and we don't really know what lies around the corner. But in terms of, if I look at it from a recycling collection side of things, and it probably sounds crass to say this really, but actually COVID has been positive in many ways for the collection side of the industry, and I say that because if you go back to beginning of 2020, is it 2020? Yeah, I'm losing track of time now. Yeah, beginning of 2020 when it all started. I'm trying to think, was it 2019? Was it 2018? But no, it seems that long ago, doesn't it? But beginning of 2020, price-wise, collection side, the UK and Europe and others were absolutely on our knees. The world was in an oversupply situation. We had far too much fibre, and crazily, COVID came along and it changed that. The demand, collection stopped, and B, the demand for packaging through home deliveries and everything else, went through the roof. And as a result, prices went through the roof, and it was through the roof. They increased, and that has pretty much stayed buoyant since then. So it was a bit of a shot in the arm, to be honest, for a lot of my membership, that all of a sudden there's demand for the material, and we were getting a decent price for it. And I think that by and large now Europe has settled down. There are little pockets of infections and nuances in the market, but I think pretty much Europe and the UK are running as normal, and that has to be a positive. We are finding now, there is huge Indian demand for material out of the UK. There's huge Southeast Asian demand for fibre out of the UK, and of course Southeast Asia are now building for the Christmas production. So prices have remained robust, albeit I was reading there are still some pockets of COVID problems in Southeast Asia and South China, log jams at ports because of infections.
Yeah, Malaysia is having a difficult time right now, I believe.
Yeah, Malaysia's having a really difficult time. So there are pockets. So it's Brian, just to reiterate, it's a very fluid situation. I think at the moment, looking at the UK, which is my perspective, things are pretty well in balance. Household collections have gone up, as you would imagine. Commercial and industrial has gone down, but is improving day by day. But it's a very, very fluid situation, and I don't think we've seen the end of this by any stretch, and it's still almost a day by day, week by week approach.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that recap. Dina, Tetra Pak is a global company, operates in just about every country, I suspect, or its products end up in just about every country. How did the shifting COVID-19 patterns affect what you're trying to accomplish with sustainability efforts?
Well, let me just fix a couple of short-term effects that we experienced, not as Tetra Pak, but in general. Initially, I think that Smaller value chain players unluckily didn't survive during the initial phase when new restrictions were there, because you have to, adapt, and you have to have this, flexibility and kind of ability to, cover losses and so on. So unluckily, I think for the value chain, there were some losses. At the initial phase, I think that there were also restrictions and limitations which made quite big volumes of waste that could be separated landfill, but it was short-term period, of course. And as for the current status, two main things I would mention here. First of all, as everyone is saying, there's a big impact on collection, big impact on shortage and increase of demand. I believe that in general, it's a midterm, most probably, or maybe longer term trend for online delivery, which needs much more packaging, and the packaging use as such, I think, is increasing. And of course, it's first of all corrugated boxes and secondary fiber, and this creates a really feasible increase in demand, and then we feel shortage, we feel price increase. We as Tetra Pak feel as a consequence higher interest to our material as secondary material, because it is like not core material, not core stream material as such, but same time very valuable for its long virgin fiber. But usually it feels a lot of competition from OCC, from standard waste paper. When OCC prices go up, then Tetra Pak becomes even more interesting alternative than this, we feel. But at the same time, if we talk about different markets, some suffer more because there's kind of price competition, and some markets start exporting more, and less is left for internal consumption, internal demand. Collection is really, booming in some areas. So this is one thing. Another thing, as a sustainability person, that I think I should mention, this single-use packaging or any kind of single-use products limitations, I think, are now slowing down, let's say, due to the current situation. And we have a huge increase of some single-use products like masks and so on and so on. I mean, the bigger trend is a bit stumbling, but I think it's temporary. So this is just a couple of reflections from my side.
Okay, thank you, Tina. The other question we've asked the panelists to think about is, in terms of boosting collection in healthier times, ideally that's the second half of this year, and ideally it's 2022. Out in the world, are there still some underperformers, parts of the world where more scrap paper can be collected? And I guess I'll maybe start this question with Jogarao, because I think that's kind of partly what WOW is all about, the initiative that you work with. It's trying to boost collection, has a lot of good social aspects too, but if you could let us know how you think India and WOW, how that's going to perform in the next couple of years in terms of boosting collection rates for OCC and maybe some of the other grades that aren't yet collected in India.
Thank you. See, in terms of collection, there are two ways of looking at it. One is India is a very conservative country. People are very, very conscious of money and economy. So your OCC, your old newspapers gets almost collected 80%. Nobody will throw away cotton. Nobody will throw away a magazine or a newspaper. So it gets stacked in the house. It gets nicely packed and sent to a trader. Then from there, it goes to the paper mill. So those collections are not affected even during COVID, because people are keeping aside, and maybe in a month or two, whenever the curfew and lockdowns are lifted, they go and sell it to a trader, then it goes to the paper mill. The only problem is with the rest of the lot of papers, which is going through the garbage route. And our program of WOW, well-being out of waste, is mainly focused on that. See, the rest of the papers, I'll just give you a number. India consumes about 20 million tons of waste paper every year today. And the per capita consumption is about 16 kgs per annum. And with 1.35 billion people, the quantum is pretty high. So what we are collecting today through the system by households collections or WOW is only not even 6 million tons. So that means almost good 14 million tons are ending up directly or indirectly, unknowingly or knowingly into the garbage bins. So our program was aiming at source segregating that at household level, office level, schools, colleges, etc., industries, get the plastic, paper, metal, etc. separated and send it back to the respective industries so that your recovery levels, which is languishing around 20%, will go up to at least 60, 70%. So we started this program in 2007 and have been doing very well. But unfortunately, the COVID has hit us hard. And as I mentioned, India is not very modernly equipped with equipments and things like that. So people are unemployed. So our program was also to give them support through collection route. They go collect it from households, offices, etc., sort it out themselves and give the separated products to us, which is called a waste collection center, which we created at different places in the country, different cities. We pay them per kg basis something as a compensation for them, which make them better in their lifestyle. Children can go to school. So that is one of the CSR angle. Plus the raw material, which is otherwise ending up in landfills, will come back to the industry and it will help the industry get competitive pricing, etc., and reduce the imports. That was the aim of this project. But then in the last 2 years, most of the people who physically work on this garbage to collect, separate, etc., is very badly affected because of the COVID virus. And the quantum has substantially dropped. As I mentioned earlier in my comment, in a mill where we used to consume 6,000-7,000 tons of recycled fiber exclusively collected from our system, today is getting only 1,000 to 1,200 tons. So the rest of it is domestically, whatever is little available, we are doing. Otherwise, we are importing quite a bit. So hopefully, as we all discussed just now, end of 2021, early 2022, if COVID is better than what it is today in terms of coming down intensity-wise, we are hoping that our plan for the next 10 years is that we want to spread this program across the country with the blessings of the government, and our Prime Minister is very keen on making India clean India, Swachh Bharat. So we want to join hands with them. And then I have a message for the paper mills across the country, also in India. Raw material is very critical for them. As I mentioned, 680 paper mills want waste paper. So if they join hands, we divide the entire country into 5 or 6 zones, and the mills located in each zone can join in this program, chip in with their resources, and whatever is collected, let them share between all of them. ONP can go to newsprint mills, OCC can go to craft mills, white gates can go for writing and printing. So many things can happen. So this is our idea, so that I'm talking to the paper mills, associations, government, so that if they join hands and make this program successful across the country, we'll be depending less on imports and more recovery levels can happen in India, and the more waste which is ending up in landfills can go back to the industry, plastic, paper, metal, glass, etc., as raw material. So we have done well before COVID, but these 2 years have been very bad. I'm hoping that we'll do well from 2022 onwards.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for that update. I thought Jogarao made an interesting point that I'd like to also ask Simon and Masoud this in terms of their geographic perspectives. But that is the OCC rate in India, pretty universally. It's a very high recycling rate. Maybe not necessarily as high as things like box board, printed box board like cereal boxes, or things like craft paper shopping bags. How are things going in the UK or in the UAE to collect those grades? Could either of you give us your assessment on that?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the UK, you know, our collection of cardboard, I think, is very good, very established. You know, and I believe the last figure I saw was that 79% of all brown OCC, that is produced gets collected and recycled in the UK. So it's a very good record. You know, we're pulling out more and more. I think that the challenge for the UK, not necessarily on brown, but on other materials as well, is the quality issue. You know, that is the big one for us at the moment. And in terms of sort of collecting more and improving quality, there's an awful lot going on in the space in the UK at the moment, because the government have got the draft environment bill, and alongside it, they produced a resources and waste strategy with some very key underlying points in there. One, to completely revamp the extended producer responsibility system, so that the producers of packaging will have to pay for 100% of the cost of the life cycle associated with the material. which is a big change at the moment, you know, because at the moment they're probably paying something like 15 to 20%. So that's going to be a huge amount of money generated from that to be invested in collection infrastructure, particularly local authority infrastructure. It will be a polluter pays principle. So the less recyclable the material is, then the more the producer will pay. So we should be designing for better quality materials. We'll be labeling it properly, and there'll be a lot of investment into local authority collection infrastructure to collect the material as well. And I think very importantly, and quite seismic really for the UK, and I know, Brian, we might be talking about this later, so I won't say too much about it now, but there is very much a move now towards the sourced segregated collection of paper, you know, moving away from the commingled model with fibre and into, you know, source separation, you know, which is absolutely time that we did that, particularly because in the consultation that's out at the moment, government are proposing collecting plastic film and flexibles as a core material. And, you know, as anybody will tell you, you put, you know, two-dimensional plastic film and flexibles in a MRF and try and separate it from paper, and you've got a whole lot of problems ahead of you. So some very positive things in that space, Brian, in terms of the UK. And, you know, our record's good. You know, we're nearly 80%, but we've got to work out how we collect that 20%. And hopefully the stuff that's contained in the EPR will help us achieve that.
All right, terrific. Thank you, Simon. And Masoud, in the UAE, how about things like craft paper bags and box board? Are they finding their way into recycling bins and to consumers?
Yes, actually the case in UAE is slightly different than whatever Mr. Jogarao said in India. The infrastructure and the country is completely different here. But the problem is that huge quantity of recyclables, especially OCC, was going to the households, to the apartments, and to the villas during past 1 year, which unfortunately it was not coming back. We could not collect it properly. The system is not there. People are still not giving that much value, unlike India, which I have lots of colleagues from India. They were telling me that in India it is completely different. These cartons, it has lots of value, but unfortunately in this country, still it is not there. But the government is trying its best. The government is trying to improve the culture. It started putting lots of taxes on the landfills, increase all the taxes at the landfill level so that people can start understanding that how to make use of it. But still there is a big room to improve. On the other hand, this country, since most of the time in the year it is hot and the temperature is a little bit high, so the country is full of some kind of malls, and most of the shoppings and everything happens in the malls. So during this pandemic, actually, the huge quantity which we were collecting from the malls, it has reduced a lot. And until now, it has not come back to the normal situation. But during the pandemic, it has gone down to the level of 30%, while we used to get almost 40% of our requirements from the malls. That has gone down. And whatever was there was contaminated with food waste, and it was a bit difficult. And many quantity of the OCC which also went to the landfill because of lockdown for a period of almost 4 months, it was completely waste. Nobody could collect them. And after 4 months, once we went back to the landfills, those material were not there anymore. It was, you know, it was completely dirty. We could not touch it even because of virus mainly. So things are a bit different here, even though the quantity which is available in UAE, it is more than the requirement of the mills. There are mainly 3 mills in UAE. Our mill is the main one, and the other 2 are a bit smaller. But the quantity which is available, it's sufficient. But lots of export happens. The prices has gone up a lot. Before the pandemic, the price was landed in our factory was around $130. under $35. As of today, it is exactly $300. So that started putting lots of impacts because the cost of production in UAE it's a bit high. Everything is a bit expensive comparing with the countries in the same region. So having high, expensive raw material, it does not work out for our industry. So that's the main challenge which we are facing. That the raw material price has increased a lot.
All right, I see. Thank you. We're getting a lot of good questions from the audience. I do want to get to those very shortly, but I want to just ask Dina for her perspective on collection and use of Tetra Pak cartons at paper mills. Are there one or two success stories you can point to in your region where you think that it's really gone well, where you've linked up very well with the consumer? You can say, this is a nice closed loop or a nice loop that we've created that you'd like to tell us about.
Thank you. If we talk about used beverage cartons stream, used beverage cartons recycling and collection, of course, the major factor, as I think for many other fractions as well, is the level of general waste management development in the country. And therefore, in Europe, it's today much more favorable situation for collection. Every second Tetra Pak pack in Europe is now collected and recycled. 51% is the recycling rate, with some countries standing out even more than that, like Germany, with a recycling rate of our cartons up to 83%, which of course is mainly the favorable separate collection system and disciplined, separate collection by population, let's say. So this is the major and let's say almost the only factor, because all the others we can manage. We bring the know-how, we help recyclers and paper mills launching and so on. But the real bottleneck in, as you said, underperforming markets is the state of waste management system as such, where it is now and what can be done with it. So this in short, from my perspective.
Okay, thank you. I think Jogarao has a comment, and you have to put your microphone back on, Jogarao. You're on mute at the moment.
I have a little success story I want to talk about Tetra Pak.
Okay.
Tetra Pak is one of our key clients as far as the specialty board is concerned. We make them for the past 30 years for the milk cartons and the beverage cartons and things like that. So they've been our very, very key clients.
Okay.
Okay, that's one aspect. The other one is, having been in the industry with a lot of, ours is a large 1 million plus paper making company. So we have been doing a lot of research. So we have now started since about 4 years using used Tetra Pak cartons, both beverage and milk, by installing a high consistency pulper, where your metal, polyfoil and the fiber gets separated. So the fiber goes to the paper industry for paper making. It's a good long fiber. The poly and al, which is aluminum and the poly, can be used as, we also down the stream industry we developed, called polyal board. So it gets dried up, made into small chips, compressed, and it becomes like a board which can substitute plywood in all
composite
applications.
material. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So it actually is termite-free, weather-free, rain-free. It's a fantastic product, and it's doing wonderfully well. It's part of our CSR program. So Tetra Pak success story, I just thought I'll add that. Thank you.
Okay, terrific.
Maybe I should just add that during the last 9 years, we have helped, let me say, 120 recyclers globally to EPIA. It was 40 around 10 years ago globally. Now it's coming closer to 200. So it's really like, you said, Jogarao. Yeah, it's a good case, and it's accelerating a lot now.
Yeah, thanks.
Terrific. I do want to get to some of the questions that have come in. And speaking of helping people, I think we have a question from Anaren Gupta. Any comments about industry efforts collectively or in any of the nations involved represented here to enhance COVID-19 vaccination, particularly in frontline workers? That's so important to keep the fiber flowing and protect people. Anyone know of any effort like that in the UAE, UK, or elsewhere?
I mean, we were our industry was awarded essential worker status, very early on with COVID. So that did give us sort of high priority in certain areas, in terms of school attendance and the likes. But no, there's no sort of other than absolute key frontline workers such as doctors, nurses, emergency services, etc. Who quite rightly have been prioritised. We haven't gone to that extent in terms of recovery, waste, recycling in the UK.
Okay, thanks for the answer.
Yeah.
Simon, I'm going to come right back to you because our today's first moderator, Wade Schutzenberg, must have heard you speak within the last couple of years. His question is, Simon, how has the quality of UK collected and sorted material fared post-China, post the ban there, and during the COVID period? Is UK material the Armani brand you had hoped for some years ago?
Wade knows me too well. Yeah, I did have a presentation at one time where I said that rather than being the Primark, the UK should have the aim of becoming the Armani of the recycling world. Although Wade pointed out to me that it should actually be a UK brand and not an Italian brand. So I can't remember the brand that we arrived at. Burberry, maybe, let's say. So good question, Wade. You know what? I think that we really spearheaded the quality improvements, or calling for quality improvements in the UK, and it was really in a post-China environment that China shut the doors for two reasons. The main one was because they wanted to become self-sustainable, and kickstart their own collection systems. The second one being concerns about poor quality materials that were arriving on those shores. And I think that the UK sort of led the way really in commingled collections of fibre. And I think we would have to hold our hands up in the early days. Some of the commingled material fibre that the UK was producing was shocking. I look back, my tenure 10, 11 years ago when I joined the Recycling Association, some of the material I saw, with a 10, 12 plus outthrow of mixed papers just wasn't good enough, and it was never going to be sustainable. And I don't think that we paid enough attention to where that material was going, what waste management systems they had in place, at the time. But that was the market, and that's what everybody did. Since then, things have been tightened up massively, and I would say that we've now got to the point in the UK with fibre that's derived from commingled collections, with the investment that we've put in MRFs, slowing them down, improving the collection systems, knowing the quality requirements, that have progressively increased. Everybody, China, as we know, but India, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, everybody wants better quality requirements now, and we've reacted to it. And commingled mixed papers in the UK, I think, is the best that it's ever been. But we've probably got now as far as we can. Unfortunately, that's not across the board. There are still some producers that are not producing particularly good quality material, but I think by and large across the board, we've got as far as we can with the quality of UK commingled material. And I think proof of the pudding, Brian and Wade, in all of this is the demand for UK commingled mixed is absolutely phenomenal. We could sell it 10 times over. Phenomenal demand from India. Are buying a heck of a lot of UK mixed papers. Europe, a heck of a lot of materials going there, and it's still going into Southeast Asia as well. So on the basis of demand and price would indicate to me that there's a very, very good fibre yield for UK commingled mixed collections. Added to the fact, of course, now it's very brown because of home collections. The mixed is harder than it's ever been because so much of the brown now is at the household rather than, you know, on the high street. And, you know, fibre yield is great. So albeit, you know, we can't rest on our laurels, we've got to improve. And if we do add, as I said earlier, film and flexibles and move towards source separation, then I think, you know, we are evolving and we are getting there. And I think, you know, we're very proud of what we're now producing in the UK and what we aim to be producing in the years to come.
All right, I'll keep an eye open for the Burberry EN617 grade when it's, when it's specified. We have a question from Ahmad Samir, and it's a Tetra Pak related question, Dina, but this also I think does apply to you, Masoud. The question is, I wanted to ask if Tetra Pak waste material is being recycled at Union Paper Mill or if there's any receiving facilities sponsored by Tetra Pak in the UAE. And I'll even extend that to the GCC region. So I don't know, Masoud or Dina, who would like to field that question first?
On Middle East, maybe I'm not the best person to comment because I'm not very deep in the details.
Can you repeat the question one more time? I could not hear you properly.
The questioner wants to know if Union Paper Mills, or maybe if you know anyone else in the UAE or the region, who is accepting for pulping, for recycling Tetra Pak cartons, the juice boxes, essentially.
Yeah, I think we had some people who came actually from other countries in this region asking, but I doubt. I don't think so. In Union Paper Mills, we don't. And I doubt in UAE that there is no such facility. No.
What I know that there is quite high recycling rates in Turkey, in Pakistan, and some other countries in the region, but
that's right.
Probably not here.
Jogarao, you had a comment as well?
Yep. I did a lot of work in Gulf countries. I was with ITC Global Holdings based at Dubai for 11 years. So that's how I made friends with the paper industry there. The two reasons why Tetra Pak doesn't do well in the Gulf is most of the paper mills located in GCC area are either kraft or tissue. They don't make any other grades.
That's right.
In either grade, this Tetra Pak material cannot go. So as a result of that, Tetra Pak actually ends up in mixed waste garbage. If they separate it, it will get exported. Otherwise, it will end up in landfill.
Okay.
That's right. Most of the paper mills here are either they are producing fluting, liner, semi-kraft, and then tissue, as Mr. Jogarao said.
Okay. Thanks, Masoud. Simon, you had a comment as well?
Yeah, just very quickly to come on that, Brian, and I think very encouraging, very interestingly, as part of this resources and waste strategy that I outlined and the core materials that we will have to collect in the UK from 2023 onwards, liquid beverage cartons, you know, Tetra Pak and the like will become a compulsory material to collect with local authorities. Two facets to that. One, we do have the UK capacity to handle that material, which is great. And B, it goes back again, if we are going to collect beverage cartons, Tetra Pak, then absolutely we have to keep it separate from, you know, the rest of the fibre. You know, we can't collect it together because it's virtually impossible to separate and can't be used in a conventional mill process, of course.
Okay, thanks for that insight. Switching topics a little bit, I have a question from Arwa Anuti El Zain, if I'm pronouncing that close to correctly. What is the most trusted entity to get updated prices for OCC? I mean, in North America, I think I can answer it's usually RISI. Now, Fast Market's RISI. When those prices come out at the beginning of the month, people tend to treat those prices attached to the large cities and ports in the US as pretty much the price to benchmark to for the next couple of 3 weeks. In terms of the Middle East, India, UK, anybody want to venture there?
Yeah, I would like to comment on it in the case of Middle East, because as responsible in my company for collecting the recyclables, many of my clients, they ask me such question: how can we understand the price? Because they don't know. The prices are sometimes below $100, sometimes above $200. Mainly in this part of the world also, yes, we use RISI. We understand lots of information we get it from RISI, but the main price for UAE comes from India. Whatever prices they buy in India, we just detect the freight charges, the vessel charges, and that is mainly the main price which we buy and we sell in United Arab Emirates and in the rest of GCC as well. Mostly from India, but sometimes also from Indonesia and China. But I can say 80% it is Indian price minus the freight charges.
And who calculates or publishes those prices? Is that RISI also or someone else?
Sometimes it gets published, yes.
Okay. Okay. I have a question also somewhat to do with the pricing, but also to do with sorting. This comes from Daniel Feldman. Will prices differentiate if sorting gets better producing grades with detailed specs from analysis, going away from commodity pricing? So I guess that means, you know, if one MRF is doing better than another, and I guess I look at you, Simon, when I ask this question, you know, is there any premium on that right now?
Do you know, Brian, that's a really good question and quite a difficult question to answer. I don't know of really any buyers that are buying, let's say, mixed materials at a higher price because the quality is better. But what we are finding is that there are better outlets, more outlets for better quality material, and thus you could then argue you're getting a better price. Does that make sense? So you're not actually getting, so if you've got, the same product, you're not getting a better price for a better material, but you're getting more outlets for that material, which gives you, there's more competition in the marketplace, and therefore more choice could mean a better price,
and ideally fewer claims, but I guess that's always
absolutely all part of it, and of course moisture as well, which is a big problem in the UK. So there's a big basket that goes into the setting of the price.
Jogarao, you had a comment also?
Yeah, see, India buys a lot of recycled fiber, as I mentioned earlier. It comes from Europe, North America, mostly US, and also Middle East. Now, what happens is with so many small paper mills, small and medium paper mills operating with recycled fiber, most of the buyers are owners. So they are very cost conscious and they don't want to throw away their money and get garbage. So many of them actually visit these countries, see the MRFs, see the quality, and develop one-to-one relationship with most of the owners. So I've been in trading also for a long time. So what happens is, if you are going to offer him OCC or NDLKC or white varieties or news or anything, they say, get me from that particular MRF, from that particular source. So if you are giving consistently that quality, they don't mind paying $10, $15 more than the market price. Because at the end of the day, your recovery is much better. Your system will be much cleaner. Your country's handling, non-fiber countries handling will be much easier. Landfills will come down. So this is happening in India in most of the mills.
I see. Yeah. Okay, terrific. Thanks for that insight. The same viewer, Daniel Feldman, has a question for, I guess, primarily for Dina. In terms of the Tetra Pak, are there some differences are there sustainability programs for both post-consumer and pre-consumer scrap generated in the Tetra Pak's process? So Dina, I guess I'll ask you to field that one.
So pre-consumer, I guess this is about post-factory waste, right? So post-factory waste has its market. It's like clean and easily collected, and there has never been an issue with it like for years. Yeah. So the whole story is about post-consumer collection and how to accelerate it at an adequate cost and scale it as much as possible. So all the effort is in this part, of course.
Okay. Terrific. Thanks for that clarification. I think a lot of the sorting questions we had sent ahead of time have been answered because of the viewer questions, but I might get to take one of these out. In terms of the impression, Simon, I'm going to start with you on this one, and maybe you're the best person to comment on this, but others are welcome to. What's your impression of the state of mechanical and optical sorting's ability to replace source separation as a method of collecting large volumes of scrap paper? Are you in the association? It sounds like you're kind of wrestling with the notion of to what extent these massive mechanical MRFs can continue to be the answer. What's your reply to that?
Yeah. I think I probably answered it to a degree, Brian, in that we've made tremendous amount of investments in the UK MRFs, to produce a better quality product, and that includes, a pre-pick, and they're it's always a balance of, you know, how much further do you go, you know, what return are you going to get on your investment, and the speed of the MRF and the materials that are coming into the MRF, and whether you go any further. So I think that, you know, we have gone virtually as far as we can and as far as we will go on investing in optical sorting of fibre, mechanical sorting for fibre in the UK. But because of all the changes that are occurring, you know, and I've talked about adding films and flexibles to the collections, you know, adding Tetra Pak and beverage cartons to the collections, you know, we're going to have to move to source separation. Added to the fact, Brian, as well, and it's a very important point in the UK as well, they, from 2023 onwards, they will be introducing a countrywide deposit return system. So all drinks bottles, plastic, glass and metal will go to deposit return. That will mean the material will be taken out of the domestic collection infrastructure, so they won't be entering the MRFs. So the MRFs are going to have to reconfigure anyway in a post-DRS system. And I think that will then give them the opportunity to then reconfigure the MRF to handle fibre separately. And then what's left in terms of plastics with the films, pots, tubs, trays, beverage cartons, steel cans, and anything else. So I think that all MRFs in the next 2 to 3 years in the UK are going to, you know, undergo some major reconfiguration surgery. And just to reiterate, that will include, I'm 99.9% certain, source separation of paper from domestic streams.
Okay.
Which, you know, isn't the holy grail. You know, it still needs a clean, you know, but, you know, it's a lot easier to clean if you haven't got plastic film and everything else in it.
The equipment companies aren't necessarily going to go out of business. They'll still have some sorting and polishing and cleaning.
Absolutely.
To do. Certainly.
Absolutely.
They certainly hope that's the case. My final question, we're down to about our last couple of minutes, unfortunately. This goes back to something Jogarao said, apparently. It comes from a viewer. Joining hands sounds great in principle, but it seems to be against business principle, though should work. So I think what his question was, is that you made a comment, Jogarao, about zones and people kind of banding together in certain aspects. And I think the viewer's concerned there might be anti-competitive aspects to this. Is he misunderstanding something, or what are you proposing?
I don't know. I've been speaking to a lot of paper mill associations in India. There is a separate association for small and medium paper mills. There's a separate association for recycled fiber-based mills. Then there's a large paper mills association. So I spoke in different forums and I explained to them this concept, and I spoke to the government as well. The point is, one should not look at their mill and their little requirement as the goal. If they look at the overall issue, and if there is so much fiber going into the landfill, which is not actually getting any value for that, once it becomes wet and dirty and smelling, nobody will touch it. So therefore, the raw material at the source level, if we segregate and it comes as a clean paper, particularly for the paper industry I'm talking about, they will be better off in terms of getting good quality material, and it is in their own region, so the logistics costs will be much lesser. The material will be easily available. They can have less inventories. They can inspect the quality themselves, and because they're a party to the whole program, they'll be the owners also. There's a ownership involved in it. So I'm suggesting to the paper mills, forget about your own little paper mill as your objective. Look at the broader aspect of your region. If there are 100 mills in your region, join hands and your costs will definitely come down. At the end of the day, if you do this, one, you get your raw material cheaper, cleaner, better. Second thing, you're helping the poor people who are below the poverty line, giving them a better livelihood. It gives an immense satisfaction that you have supported somebody who is actually not having 2 square meals. And their children won't become rag pickers. They'll be better off with health and education. So this is what the people should look at, not just making money through a small mill.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And I think that's going to be up to the recyclers, the buyers, the sellers in India to figure out whether they like what you're proposing or not. I think some will. I think some may not be as happy about that. I think I previously said that would be our final question, but I'm going to throw one more out there to the group, and that's a question from Artur Augustinowicz. Do you think that due to COVID and home office, working from home, more OCC will be generated in this channel? I'm going to guess we all kind of think that's true, but maybe the bigger question is, what can you do about it if you're Union Paper Mills, or if you're, if you're the Recycling Association in the UK? How have you responded to that trend? I don't know if who would like to field that question? Perhaps start with Masoud.
Yes, definitely. As I said, working from home, yes, it has increased the OCC, which was ending up at the home, at the houses, at the apartments, and this was not actually properly getting bundled and kept there for recycling. Now, mainly this has happened. What I have realized actually in Dubai, people started eating more during the during staying at home, and everyone's weight, including myself, has gone up. So, but the e-commerce had a very big impact on that. Many cartons has gone over there, but the proper recycling has not happened. Even though this actually the government has a very important role in this, which UAE government is actually doing great in that, and they are trying to educate people more. I can see that in each and every area of the city, there are some improvements, but of course it is still not enough. And due to this COVID and the cardboard which has gone, the fiber which has ended up at the households, we have actually lost a huge quantity. Hopefully this should improve a lot in near future.
Okay. And Simon, you represent a number of companies, or to some extent, through the IWPP. What have your members found in terms of their ability to get those OCC boxes out of residential spaces?
Yeah, I mean, it was a challenge to start with, Brian. My wife has been single-handedly responsible for the increase in the Amazon share price, judging by the number of parcels that come through our door on a daily basis. But
recycling those boxes, I'm sure, Simon.
But the challenge was, initially, when COVID hit, was getting that material out, because it literally changed overnight. And the collection systems also, some councils stopped collecting initially. We managed to get that decision reversed, and everything is now collected. But the challenge is, and I think it's we were talking about this earlier. This is a COVID thing, where people are working from home and there is more packaging at the household, and we've got to collect it. But I also absolutely convinced that this pattern has changed, for good. And I think we're going to see longer term a lot more of us working from home. I for one, I'm certainly not going to be going in the office 3 or 4 times a week as I used to, because it's wasted traveling time. We've got Zoom, we've got Teams, and we've got used to it, and we've realised how much more efficient we can be. I think we've also got used to home deliveries. Why queue at a supermarket, when you can get it just as easily through your front door. And we've got to adapt our collection systems accordingly. So, what we lose in the commercial and industrial, we're getting at the household. And that's why it's important that we've got fit for the purpose collection systems. And, fair dues to the British government, for recognising this, and, to putting investment in to make sure that we collect as much as we can, and it's a premium quality product.
All right, thank you, Masoud and Simon, for those answers. I am Masoud, Simon, Jogarao, and Dina. We have used up our allotted time, and my sincere thanks to the panelists for having provided a lot of insight in the past 45 minutes, past 50 minutes. I hope our viewers have enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. This is today's final session, so the conference hosts in Dubai will not have any more video content today. However, if you have an interest in plastic recycling, be sure to come back tomorrow for day 2 of the International Recycling Week. Goodbye, everyone, and thank you.
Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
It was my pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.